Okay, you can start. Ari.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam
My name is Ari Arvin. My name is Ari Arvin and this is and I'm the Prime Minister for the Pro side. And let's talk about the topic. Tourism industry does more harm than goods for citizens of developing some countries. In my opinion, I agree about this statement. The tourist industry does more harm than good. Firstly, although the tourism industry has many advantages, but in other side, it also had many disadvantages. It is the cause of the environment pollution, and it does not only affect air pollution, but also water pollution and also damage ecological system, in which plants and animals, moreover, and also for the local tribes itself. In industry are caused to many diseases, such as cancer or lung disease. And secondly, tourist industry developed very fast. Many hotels are built. Confusion lead to lose the beauty of the countries. So I hope that in the near future, tourist industry will have solution for environment pollution to protect our health. This is necessary for all of us. And this is for the example. The first example is the subject is occurred in May 2022. Yeah, it happened several months ago when some tourists in Bali disrespected local culture by doing naked stripping on a sacred mountain. And also, Bali governor Iwayan Koster stated that the Hindu majority province has expelled dozens of foreigners in recent years for disrespecting sacred sites or flouting the COVID-19 restriction. And for another example, Nepal, the home of the country of Mount Everest, or one of the 7 summits, which Nepal use Mount Everest as a major income for their country. Every year, 100,000 of people come to climb and also for the vacation to be one of the World 7 Summit. The tourists are totally slopes. They abandon tents, equipment, and traces. Every year, there are around 50-ton traces left in Everest. Not only that, every tourist left almost 12,000 kilogram human waste, which means this majestic mountain turns into a pile of poop and trash mountain. And this causing a water pollution for our local tribes, which leads for the local tribes is have a bad experience to looking for a clean water. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Kaifar.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Kaifar. I'm the Prime Minister of Contra Team. In my opinion, tourism has positive impacts that we need to know, as usually everything has positive and negative impacts as well as tourism. Tourism, of course, has many positive impacts, both for an area and for the community in the area itself. The positive impacts of tourism are as follows: creating jobs, donate money for the country, maintain local culture because tourists enjoy local culture, such as the culture of quoting coffee from the Gayo area and the Saman dance performance from the Gayo UAS area. The use of money from tourism can be used to preserve the tourism environment, supporting public facilities for tourists, which which are also beneficial for the local community. For example, repairing roads around tourism areas, increasing income from tourists is more promising than from local residents, help promote the region. There are many benefits that can be provided by the development of the tourism industry sector. According to the Handbook of Indonesian Tourism Educators and Extension Officers published by the Ministry of Culture and Tourism, at least the benefits and negative impacts can be viewed from four aspects: economic aspects, socio-cultural aspects, aspects of the nation and state, and environmental aspects. Benefits of the tourism industry in the economy: increase foreign exchange, open up business opportunities, add job opportunities, increase community and government income, encouraging regional development. Benefits tourism industry in the socio-cultural field: preservation of culture and customs, improve people's intelligence, improve physical and mental health, reduce social conflict. The benefits of the national state tourism industry: strengthening unity and unity, cultivating a sense of belonging and love for the homeland, maintain good relations internationally. Benefits tourism industry in the environment: preserving the environment, cultivate a calm and clean living atmosphere, improve physical and mental freshness, stay away from pollution, relax, can restore physical and mental health. Thus, tourism development is one way in an effort to preserve the environment, gaining additional use of the existing environment. The point is, the tourism industry is defined as a set of business fields that produce various services and goods needed by those who travel. Every product, both real and virtual, that is presented to meet certain human needs should be assessed as an industrial product. Okay, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Dio.
Although there's a lot of positive impact that tourism has produced, we believe that the negative impact far outweighs the positive impact. For example, in economic sector, third world countries such as Barbados, Bangladesh, and Madagascar, who rely the most on tourism, will heavily impacted when unforeseen circumstances comes, like the most recent COVID-19 pandemic. They were more likely to lose their job in the immediate aftermath of the pandemic. This is the main finding of a recent study using data collected at the onset of crisis in 34 third world countries around the world, which account for a combined population of almost 1.4 billion. And then, in socio-cultural aspect, tourism will lead to overcrowding that will cause health and safety concerns. With overcrowding, hygiene will most likely be their least concern. It will lead to a widespread of disease being transmitted from one to another, which what leads to the current state of the world right now. We've been stuck in this pandemic for almost 2.5 years. And then on the safety aspect, tourism has led the growth of crime rate. Most often, concern about crime and tourism focus on the tourists as victims of crime. Over recent years, there have been several well-published international cases in which tourists has been the deliberate targets of crime. Some of these have involved politically motivated terror campaigns. For example, in Egypt, in which tourists are targets both because of their symbolic role as the representatives of foreign cultures and because of the host regime's perceived economic reliance on the tourism sector. Attacks on tourists also, of course, guarantee international publicity for any terrorist act, since they are, by definitions, residents of foreign locales. At other times, for example in Florida, tourists simply represent an easy prey. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Dio. Next is
Okay, thank you.
Miss Rani.
On this occasion, we stated the attitude firmly that we didn't agree with the debate motion this time. But before I move for discuss related to our argument building, let me go first to give a rebuttal to the explore of argument by the proposition team. From the proposition team's argument that they made a statement about the adverse effect of the tourism industry in the developing countries, without many explanation why it happened. Whereas tourism in developing countries is the full force in every aspect of the country. Now, I will briefly the basis of the problem from what is mentioned by the proposition team related to the environment, health, attitudinal respect, and economic dependence. The problem is not the tourism industry in itself, but how to do it properly, which will also help prevent things that have been mentioned by proposition team. And that's where the principle of sustainable tourism entry are determined by the three main pillars. First, an environmentally friendly practice. Second, support for the protection of cultural and natural heritage. Third, directing benefit of residents. The fact is that concept of sustainable tourism development began to be applied in 1980s. Sustainable tourism is a concept that covers the complete tourism experience, including concern for economic, social, and environmental issues, as well as intention to improve tourist experience and addressing the needs of the host communities. As the report states, safety and healthcare go hand in hand for creating a resilient tourism model, and countries must be able to meet the needs of their residents. Of course, this is at the same time a solution to the statement made by proposition team. Sustainable tourism will have a positive impact not only at this time but also in the long run. Some example of successful countries with the application of sustainable tourism include marine conservation programs in Sri Lanka, Slovenia's big push for green tourism, Bhutan big to driven laws of culture and over tourism, Italy's long history of agritourism, and also Indonesia has sustainable tourism like Punti Kayu Palembang and Taman Sari Suwana Bali. The concept of sustainable tourism must continue to be encouraged and in line with still paying attention and maintaining the sustainability of the national ecosystem. In addition, sustainable tourism is also useful to absorb a lot of labor to encourage the economy and improve the welfare of the surrounding community, especially in the developing countries. Preserving sustainability doesn't burden the villagers, but the government also plays a role in building as well accommodating the process of this program. Regarding my argument, our purpose here is not that this country depends on the tourism industry, but becoming tourism becomes sustainable so that it can contribute the country to make developing citizens prosperous. One of which is in the economic field. Globally, the tourism industry has become one of the largest economic sectors. The service sector with the most rapid growth rate in the world today, and is also massively growing sector. There are many examples of this. One example is Singapore. Singapore was originally a developing country, now a developed country. It can be said the advancement of Singapore's economy caused the country because one of the most developed countries in the world. Singapore can become a developed country even though its natural resources are small. This is because Singapore relies on all economy sector in the industrial and service fields. For example, is the tourism industry. Singapore tourism revenue data was updated quarterly with an average of 4 USDBN from 2007 to 2021 with 60 observation. This data reached the highest number of 5 USDBN in 2019. Singapore's tourism income data remains active in CEIC and report by CEIC data. So in this example, we can clearly see the effect of the tourism industry on the economic sector, and the tourism industry more good than harm for the citizen of developing country. Of course, this can be a reflection for developing countries in the welfare of sustainable and future economy for other developing citizens. That's all for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, Zahra.
Yeah, okay. The economic impact from tourism for local people is they have to pay more for food, drinks, transportation, public facility, etc. Also, local people have to pay taxes to help additional service for tourists, such as water, information center, and other facilities. Other significant impact of tourism is when workers move from farming, fishing, mining into service job for tourism like guide tour or hotel or working at hotel. It's really harmful and makes the economic in the markets down. And tourists sometimes doesn't care about safety or how to taking care of something. Still in Bali, they rent a motorcycle and reckless in the road. The impact of those who has motorbike are harmed by them. Also, beside the economy impact, there is a social impact too. The example is tourists in Bali laying down on the street to get sunburned, and local people who wants to go to their office is blocked, and this is make them losing time. Tourism in Bali really like to promote their activity in social media, and when the tourists come to Bali, the visitor increase and it makes the government hassle and don't know what to do. The tourists also do crime to native. They are no respect to other people, culture, and always made jokes about it. Few of them begging for money when it's time for them to go to their country because they are less money. And also the business owner foreigners is everywhere. It can remove the natives industry. That's for me. Thank you.
Okay. Next is Ferreira.
Okay. Although it is true that overcrowding will cause health and safety issues, I believe that well-being of travelers or tourists has always been top priority of tourist operators, especially with the disruptions of the COVID-19 virus. Health and safety is even more important now. Tourism businesses, suppliers, and travelers must be willing to comply with health and safety procedures. So it's important to focus on general health and safety guidelines in addition to COVID-19 measures when you travel to every country. Speaking of crime, crime happens all the time and everywhere. We can't predict when it will happen. But first of all, there are three elements are required for the crime to take place. First, a suitable victim or target. Second, a motivated offender, usually someone who has adopted a criminal lifestyle. And third, a relative absence of capable guardians, such as law enforcement officers, security guards to police tourist areas. And the problem is that tourists carry large sums of money, visit dangerous locations at night, leave the properties inside, and look like tourists. That is, in my opinion, tourists need to educate themselves before visiting a country they are not familiar with. On the other hand, the media plays an important role in the perception that people have regarding a specific destination. Crimes are sometimes overreported or underreported in proportions consistent with the risk. According to Pete Dunn, only a small number of empirical studies have explained the relationship between tourism and crime. However, there is a little hard data available for resort areas to allow policymakers to develop and evaluate appropriate responses to local problems. In addition, apart from health, safety, and crime issues, I would like to mention that regardless of the country size or geographical location, tourism has always contributed to its economic growth and GDP. Governments tend to invest heavily because it brings in profit while increasing the country's reputation. Especially for developing countries, tourism is often the most sustainable economic development option and reduces the poverty level. It also lowers the unemployment rate with the locals providing goods and services to the tourists. Due to the well-developed industry and cheaper travel costs, the number of arrivals to developing countries are substantial. That's all from me. Thank you.
Okay, guys, I think that the time is almost up. My 40 minutes of because it's non-commercial, yeah. So I will end now, and then I want you, all of you, yeah, not just the rest of your member that hasn't presented yet, to join again, yeah. So I will convert this first. So it takes like 5 minutes, and then after that you rejoin again. Okay. So the rest who hasn't presented yet is Muhammad Abdil and Ibrani Munte. Yeah. Okay.
Sir.
Hmm? What? Wait.
Yes, sir.
What? What, Ibrani?
No. I just say yes.
Okay. 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, you rejoin again, all of you. Okay. Okay, Mr. Ibrani.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your all statements. Now I will give a consolation about our statements are real and trusted. So here we can get a consolation that the arrival of tourists from various countries has more negative impact than positive impacts. As has been explained, tourist impact cause negative things that greatly affect the lives of local people, such as environmental pollution. It doesn't only affect our pollution, water pollution, but it also damages ecological system in which plants and animals moreover. It also affects to our health. Besides that, tourists also cause environmental pollution by dumping garbage indiscriminately, as happened on Mount Everest, which reached 50 tons of garbage every year. And then tourists sometimes doing unexpected things such as naked stripping on a sacred mountain in Bali, rent a motorcycle and reckless in the road, laying down on the street to get sunburned, and local people who wants to go to their office is blocked. And this just makes them losing time. Reason like this that provides evidence that tourists have a more negative impact on local communities. With this evidence, we can conclude that what was conveyed by the opposing camp was completely inconsistent with the existing evidence. Besides that, this evidence was very reliable because it had been circulated to social media.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Muhammad Abdil.
Mary statement team 2 is
pardon,
globally
what? I'm sorry. Yes?
Not yet.
Oh, you haven't finished. Okay. You may go on.
Okay, so by going through the bad event caused by tourists, we can better understand that tourists are causing more harm, so that with us we can be more alert and careful of tourists who can come into our area for the first time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Muhammad Abdil, your turn.
Okay, the summary of statement team 2 is globally the tourism industry has become one of large economic sectors and is the most rapid growth in the world today. The tourism industry is defined as a set of business fields that produce various services and goods needed by those who travel. The positive impacts of tourism are as follows. First, creating jobs to donate money for the country. 3, maintain local culture. 4, the use of money from tourism can be used to propose the tourism environment. 5, supporting public facilities. 6, increase income from tourists, and the last positive impacts is a help promote the region to the world. At least the benefits and negative impacts can be viewed from 4 aspects. A, economic aspect. B, socio-cultural aspect. C, aspect of the nation and state. And D, environmental aspect. Some example of successful countries with the application of sustainable tourism include marine conservation programs in Sri Lanka, Slovakia's big push for green tourism, Bhutan's bid to prevent loss of culture and over-tourism, Italy's long history of agritourism, in Indonesia, one of them in Punti Kayu Palembang, Taman Sari Sauna Bali, in Southeast Asia, it can be said Singapore economy to become one of the developed country in the world. than before its developing country. Singapore can be a developed country even though its natural resources are small. This is because Singapore relies on all economic sectors in the industrial and service field. Singapore tourism revenue data was updated quarterly with an average of 4 USD/BN from 2007 to 2021 with 60 observation. This data results the highest number of 5 USD/BN in 2019. Singapore's tourism income data remains active in CIC and reported by CIC data. Therefore, Singapore is one example of a country that has become developed due to the positive impact of the tourism industry. Even though the country is very natural resources are small, but they can rely on areas or sectors that can be used as destination from various parts of the world. This should also be followed by an example by countries that are still relatively developing countries. They must be aware of the advantage in this industry. The conclusion is from several aspects that support the presence of the tourism industry, it can be helped from an economic point of view to aspect of the surrounding area which is a destination land. The government clearly sees many aspects in this matter, so the government is trying very hard to support this industry. Although the tourism industry can be said to have declined in recent years due to COVID-19, this can be said to be very detrimental to the tourism industry itself, because the advantage is taken from the number of people who come to tourist destination. As a result of this loss, maybe some people who previously got land to sell could not continue it, and so on. The government must deal with the unfinished epidemic. We can only pray to that this outbreak will quickly so that tourism can resume, which can indeed help the world economy due to COVID-19, which itself has caused the world economy to decline greatly. Therefore, the advantage of this industry become one of the hubs for world government to solve economic problem in this world. So that's all from me, sir.
Okay, thank you all for your participations. Yeah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I will send the